The gem variety of avocado, it's named after Gray Edward Martin, who worked for the University of California avocado program and observed and selected varieties for many years. And this variety came from a Gwen seed planted back in the 1980s, patented, tested as 329.5, and then later called Gem in honor of Gray. And you can see it's got kind of narrow leaves for an avocado. They're a little bit willow-like, and they're dense. It's got a compact foliage. This little gem here has only been in the ground for less than a year from a 3-gallon sleeve. Let me show you one more gem tree that's about the same age. This little gem tree has also been in the ground for a little less than a year, and as you can see, it's already got quite a few flowers on it. And those flowers, Gem obviously is a precocious variety. It tries to fruit while very small and young. It's also got an A-type flower. A-types generally being more productive than B-types. It will try to produce. It sets well on its own without another type of avocado nearby. And it will try to set fruit, hold fruit, when it's still very small. Now let me show you a few older gem trees with fruit on them. Now here's a gem tree that's about 5 or 6 years old. It's still only maybe 5 or 6 feet wide, 6, maybe 7 feet tall. Notice that it doesn't look like it has any fruit on it. You can't see any fruit from the outside because the foliage hides it very well, which is a benefit, especially in inland areas where it gets hot. It's not as exposed to sunburn as it otherwise would be. But have a peek inside and you find that there's a whole lot of fruit in there. Just oodles of avocados inside. Very nicely hidden from the sun though. More over here, more over there, more over here, more in there. Now, Gem is known to not alternate bear as much as Hass. And that may be true, but that's not to say that it doesn't alternate at all. If you look at the tree, this is late April. It should have a lot of flowers or fruitlets on it now, but there are only a few flowers. It's really not going to have much of any of a crop this year. So yeah, Gem's a little more consistent than Hass, but not extremely consistent. But just a note on the spacing for Gem. As you can see, so these are all gems here, and they're spaced roughly 10 feet apart. And they're around 5 years old. As you can see, there's still space between the trees. Giving 10 feet for a gem tree, 5 feet on each side, is really plenty. You're gonna get through a lot of years before you need to prune that tree, and so you can plant gems pretty tight. Now, because Gem is a tree that fruits a lot when it's young, you've got a bit of a dilemma because it'll hold a lot of fruit on low branches. And so what do? Do you skirt those branches up to keep the fruit off the ground, or do you just let it fruit and let the fruit hang on the ground? As a commercial grower, it's not ideal to have fruit on the ground, especially because you're not supposed to sell that fruit. But as a home grower, it's also not ideal because the fruit often gets munched by bugs and is discolored and doesn't always ripen properly. But here's a branch with just a ton of fruit. I don't know if you can see them all, but there's a ton of fruit hanging out in the leaves, in the mulch. And so do you want to lose all that fruit on that lower limb, or do you just lose a few because a few are in the mulch? Do you prune it up and lose a few fruit in the early years? Yeah, there's not an easy answer to it, but that is a habit of gem that you have to deal with. Just to illustrate what gem is capable of producing on a compact tree, this tree is probably 6 feet tall and about 6 feet wide. And let me just try to show you the amount of fruit it's carrying inside. From the ground, can you see that fruit? From the ground, all around, all the way up. There's just loads of fruit. Loads and loads and loads of fruit. I mean, that's a lot of fruit on a relatively small tree. It's just kind of everywhere inside the leaves there are avocados. So that's that is what gem is capable of. Now, one downside of gem carrying a lot of fruit on a compact tree is that it can get, the fruit can get a bit scarred. I don't know if you can see, but there's some scarring here. And you'll see some scarring elsewhere on the fruit. Since it's rubbing against other fruit, it's also rubbing against branches. But have a look at the fruit close up though. It's really an attractive avocado. It's got the bright glowing dots, the yellow lenticels, and that is before it's totally mature and starts to ripen anyway. And it's a good sized avocado as well.